Hey guys, it's me. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm still talking about books, so yeah, I hope that's what you subscribed for. Today I am going to be making the video. I had made a poll in my community tab asking you guys what you would most like to see. Number one was my favorite classics. Did that last week. Highly recommend. That's a lie, I really don't recommend it. Watch literally any other video, not mine. And second most requested was how I annotate my books. And a lot of people were really intrigued and didn't really know why I would do that. Which, you know what, it's a fairly good question, like why would I? But I will get into it. Before we do, let me know if you are someone who annotates your books, because I have seen literally only booktubers do it and I haven't met anyone else in my life who annotates their books, so please let me know, because I don't know if this is just a thing that people started doing so they could, I don't know, like make videos about it. I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. First thing that people ask me is why, okay? Why do I annotate my books? Why is it that when I read a book, a lot of the time ends up looking like this or like this? You know, and I also have these sticky tabs on top. So why? But there's a lot of reasons. So the first one would generally be either for review or analysis, right? So if this is a book that I'm going to be reviewing, there are some key moments that I would like to remember, things I would like to bring up in a video. Or for analysis, for instance, the book I'm reading right now, To Paradise by Hane Yanagihara, kind of emotional mutilation, if I'm being honest, but we'll save that for the actual To Paradise review, shall we? So for example, I have taken to doing my own little analyses segments, so I will have something that I find interesting, I'll tab it, then I'll write something, and then this color will be the color that I use for analysis, and I will do that in purple for this book, though I'll get into the colors in a little bit later. Tell me English isn't your mother tongue without telling me that English isn't your mother tongue. So another reason that I do it is for writing inspiration, okay? So I am someone who loves to write, and there are certain books that inspire me a lot, and I mean a lot. And so sometimes if I am facing writer's block, I will find the passages that inspired me in a book that I read, and it won't completely take me out of writer's block, but it will help me a little bit, and it will get me kind of a bit more inspired than I would have been otherwise. And the last reason why I annotate is just for the experience. I think that it turns reading into such a different activity because there is this kind of interaction with the novel and the author. And when you start annotating, you subconsciously start looking for things to annotate. At least that's what happens to me. Because I'm kind of subconsciously reading to find something to pick up on, it makes the experience not only a lot more intense and interactive, but I also tend to get a lot more out of the novel. Things that I would have gone over my head, things that I wouldn't necessarily have noticed had I just been reading the book, I will notice. So those are the main reasons as to why I annotate, and now we'll get into how I do it. There are a lot of ways that you can annotate your books. First one is the most simple, is either your notes app or a notebook. Just have a fucking notebook where you can write down the page number of the book that you're reading, and then write down maybe the quote that you wanted to talk about and your thoughts on it. This is great because you are not restricted to the margins of your book, right? So if you have a lot to say about something, you might want to be using your notes app or a notebook. I sometimes use my notes app, and I do want to move to the notebook because my notes app is fucked, okay? There's no finding anything in there. I've lost like 3 reviews. I don't know where anything is, so I will be reverting to the notebook method. I have used it in the past and then I lost the notebook because I am a disorganized mess, but that is method number 1. It's very effective. It gives you a lot of freedom to write whatever the fuck you want and go on about it for ages. So that is something that really appeals to me personally. I also think it's like a really cute idea to have like this little notebook where you talk about everything you read. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Now, way number 2, I would like to issue a trigger warning because the way I treat my books might shock some of the most fragile souls out there. But this book, right, doesn't look it. There's no sticky notes, but it's very annotated. And it looks like this. I don't know if you can tell, but I've folded a lot of pages. I would find something that I wanted to talk about or annotate, and I would just fold the corner of the page so I can find it. Now, this has the disadvantage of not being color-coded, right? So I don't necessarily know what I'm about to stumble on. But it is a very good way to annotate what you're reading without having to buy these sticky notes that like cost a mortgage, basically. They're also very bad for the environment. So eventually when I run out, I am going to be moving to like the notebook method or just the folding the page method. I have stocked up on them back in the day, so I have enough of them to keep me going for like a good 2 years, I think. But after that, I probably won't be buying them again. Like I showed this in my classics video. This is my copy of The Wasteland. To be fair, it's a poem, so there aren't many pages in this, so I didn't fold the pages of this. But yeah, so far you have 2 annotation methods that don't require you to spend your trust fund on sticky notes, and a method where you can just write it in a separate notebook if you're into keeping your books really pristine and nice. Method number 2 does involve sticky notes, okay? That was one of the like first books that I really started annotating, and it looks like this. I chose red because it matches the color of this book, and I also have like post-it notes on top where I would write thoughts after a while. So I would highlight shit and then put a sticky note so I would find what I was talking about. I gave up on highlighting because fuck having 20 million highlighters in your bag whenever you have a book with you. Like I just don't have the energy to dig through my bag for the right color of highlight before I start annotating my book. Now I just like underline. And then I would like put these if I had any thoughts and I would write something on. Again, that's not something I do anymore. I don't use the same post-it color because when you have that many, it's impossible to find anything, okay? So I don't use that anymore. I use that for the interpreter. I use that for a little live. It made the entire review process very miserable. So that's when I started using several colored sticky notes. So the next book that I annotated looks like this. It's The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. It's probably my all-time favorite book now. And I was still using highlighters. I would highlight in pink and then I would highlight in blue. Again, I don't do this anymore. I just underline because it's just too much. It's just too much work. And I used, again, these post-it notes to just talk about what I was feeling at the time. And so you're probably wondering, Barbara, what is the color code? I tend to adapt the color code to the book that I am reading. It's not always going to stay the same. A lot of colors will come back and stay the same, but there are always going to be some slight adjustments because I'm not going to be annotating the books in the same way necessarily. So what I do is I take some sticky notes and I put them there and then I write what it's for. So green was for vocabulary and sentence structure. Orange is for stuff like descriptions and metaphors that I find really evocative and overall want to be able to read again. Blue is for emotion, so something that triggered emotion in me personally. That's important. Not emotion on the side of the characters, something that affected me emotionally. Yellow was for character development, and pink was for prose and just passages that I thought were really beautiful and well written. So that is how I annotate The Goldfinch. And when I didn't have enough space to write my full thoughts, I would use those yellow post-it notes. Fuck, where are they? You would think I'd be able to find my shit, but apparently not. So I would use these yellow post-it notes and write my thoughts, basically. I've done a very similar thing with my copy of the Iliad, but the colors aren't necessarily the same. I have orange for moments that made me laugh. I have purple for, again, review and analysis because I did make a review of the Iliad. I have pink for, again, passages that I really liked or that I enjoyed, something with good descriptive value. Blue for emotions, again, a lot of them come back. Oh, and then I used yellow for any God moments or God shenanigans that really I found funny. But I would kind of make notes on what happened in these books because I really wanted to make sure I didn't forget any important details that might be significant later on in the story. So the purple post-it notes were kind of light analysis and key moments that I really wanted to remember. These are just personal thoughts, the one that I just write in at the end of the chapter. That's something I started doing recently. At the end of each chapter, I'll write my overall thoughts. If I have thoughts, sometimes I don't. And then the red ones were just stuff that I really wanted to find again, like the book where Diomedes is being an absolute badass. There's Diomedes here, I don't know if you can see. I read that every night before I go to bed. Anyway, as you can see, my annotation process evolves constantly. It's never very stable. I don't have this fixed color-coded system. So again, pink for prose that I like, blue for emotion, purple for analysis and review. Yellow is a very specific one here. It is for a very visual scene and generally will inspire me to draw or paint, and I want to be able to go back to that to have this description in my mind. And I also have stopped using those post-it notes. I just go to the end of chapter if I don't have enough space to write, and I'll mark it with, oh Can you see them? Okay, yeah, these blue sticky notes here. That's basically how I annotate. There are some drawbacks though, and for me, I don't really care, but you should probably be aware of them before you start annotating your books. Something that I've seen a few people worry about is the time that it would take for them to annotate that book. It's true, it slows down the reading process by quite a lot. Like I am an excruciatingly slow reader to begin with, and the fact that I annotate a lot of my books, it is a problem. And when it comes to like speed, if you have a lot of books to read, yeah, it can be an issue. Now, if like me, you don't really care that much, I prefer to have an annotated book than a book that I would have just like sped through, if that makes sense. Another thing is that if you do sell your books or give them away, you can't. These books that I've annotated are very personal to me. I can't really lend them out to anyone. A lot of the time they kind of like turn into a stand-in diary, and because yeah, a lot of my notes are extremely personal, so you cannot lend them out, you cannot sell them. So that is one big issue. And another one is a lot of people claim that it takes them out of the story. Now I think that will change depending on who you are. That's not something that I have ever had a problem with. In fact, it does the exact opposite in my experience, where I will be a lot more invested in the story if I'm thinking more about it and trying to write things down. Yeah, those are some of the drawbacks that you may run into, but overall, for me, like annotating has been the best thing I could have done in my reading journey, I guess. I just enjoy it so much. The experience is so different. It's such a different sort of interaction. And yeah, that's it. I think I'm done with the video. Damn. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was somewhat useful. And if it wasn't, I'm sorry. I mean, you clicked on the video, it's on you. If you would like to keep up with me, you can subscribe and turn on the notifications, and then follow me on Instagram and Twitter, because I'm gonna try and get back to Twitter. And then you can add me on Goodreads if you want to see what I'm reading. Okay, I think that's it. That's it for the stalking. I will see you guys soon. Goodbye.